Republicans fired off a letter to the acting Secret Service director after his Senate hearing yesterday. They are accusing the agency of a, quote, pattern of negligence. Here are just some of the tense moments that sparked that letter.
I believe that the Secret Service leadership made a political decision to deny these requests. And I think the Biden administration has been suffused with partisan politics.
Senator, what I will tell you is that Secret Service agents are not political.
Okay, you're not answering my question. But you know what? Leadership appointed by the president, leadership appointed by the president is political. I have a simple question, yes or no. Did the same person deny the Trump request that also denied the RFK request? That's a yes or no question.
Senator, that is not a yes or no question.
What more do you need to investigate to know
exactly what the decision-making process was? What more do you need to investigate
to know that there were critical enough failures that some individuals ought to be held accountable? I mean, what more do you need to know?
What I need to know is exactly what happened, and I need my investigators to do their job, and I cannot,
a lot of people didn't do their jobs.
I cannot put my thumb on the scale.
When a former president is shot, when an American is killed, when other rally-goers, innocent people who just showed up on the day, when they are shot at and critically wounded, if that isn't a protocol violation prima facie, you should revise your protocols.
Republican Senator Marsha Blackburn of Tennessee, member of the Judiciary Committee, joins us now. Senator, did you get the answers that you were looking for in that hearing yesterday? So far, no one in the Secret Service has been held accountable. The director did resign, but she didn't get fired.
Well, you're right about that. No one has been held to account, and we still do not know who it is that cleared President Trump to take the stage at 6 o'clock when for an hour they knew they had a suspicious person, and at 5:51 they knew they had a potential threat. And the lack of information we've been able to get has been just mind-boggling. That's why sending a letter, that's why continuing to question, that is why looking at how we deal with the Secret Service leadership to make certain they understand they've got one job. It is to protect the individual. They are responsible for 31 individuals, the president, the vice president, their families, former presidents, and then others in the administration that have received death threats. 31, and they can't get it right. So we're going to continue on this. I brought up the email that one of the agents had sent and accused the Secret Service of having a mission of CYA. With the FBI, I brought up the fact that there was confusion around these social media accounts that the shooter had. One when he was younger that espoused the anti-immigrant, anti-Semitic activity, and then the more current account from Gab, which is leftist ideology. And I think there are two more accounts they're trying to get the ability to go into. But look, we need the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. This is not like somebody misses casework or somebody misses a deadline. When the Secret Service messes up, people die. Yeah. And that is what happened in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Senator, to your point about the accounts there, your line of questioning dug into that with the Deputy FBI Director, Paula Bate. Let's just play a little bit of that for you.
Yeah.
Something just very recently uncovered that I want to share is a social media account which is believed to be associated with the shooter in about the 2019-2020 timeframe. There were over 700 comments posted from this account. Some of these comments, if ultimately attributable to the shooter, appear to reflect anti-Semitic and anti-immigration themes, to espouse political violence, and are described as extreme in nature.
So he's got some other accounts as well, Belgium, New Zealand among them, Germany I think as well, but those are encrypted and the FBI can't get into them. They've got an Israeli company trying to help them break into those accounts, but so far no joy on that point. The fact that he had encrypted accounts overseas, where does that have your mind going?
It is something that causes us concern. As I said, we want to know what is in there because we know the Gab account that they have been able to get into. That account has very leftist leanings. And so, John, what we're trying to do is we still don't know if he acted alone. We do not know what other participation he might have had. We don't know how he was able to pull this off and get a gun up on the roof and then get himself later up to that roof for that gun and take that shot. And we don't know why there was no Secret Service on the roof or no local law enforcement. And as we know, they have that inner perimeter, a mid perimeter, and an outer perimeter. And local law enforcement, state troopers, there is a lot of blame being sent around. The Secret Service is responsible. Director Rowe told me yesterday he was committing to be a change agent. And I said, buddy, we better see some change for the better. Yeah. Because what has happened, see, if this is systemic, if this is the way they're looking at every event for any of the former living presidents or the current president and vice president, this should cause everyone concern. You want them to protect these individuals. It is not a partisan issue, as you saw. There was bipartisan disgust with the testimony that we heard yesterday.
Yeah, you have to wonder also, Senator, how many times this has happened in the past.
That's
that,
right.
You know, certain platforms with line of sight have gone uncovered, but thankfully nothing happened. Is this just a one-off or is it systemic? Now, I want to get you to something else that's very important to you, and this is that you co-authored the most significant child online safety bill proposed in decades, at a time where studies overwhelmingly show the devastating effects of social media on young people's mental health. Yesterday, that bill passed 91-3 in the Senate, goes on to the House now. You know, as we pointed out, there are plenty of studies that show the detrimental, deleterious effects of social media on young minds, but then there is this fine balance between government intervention and regulation and privacy. How do you walk the line between those two things?
Yes, and we have done that in this legislation. What this is a product design bill. And John, just as we have standards for products in other areas or in the physical space, in the virtual space, we've not had that. And of course, in the physical space, you cannot sell alcohol, tobacco, pornography to children, but they're exposed to that nonstop in the virtual space. And this bill requires safety by design, a duty of care for young online users, a toolbox for parents and kids to be able to manage their online participation, a way for the algorithmic black boxes to be opened, and a portal where kids can report bad actors. And then social media be able to take those down. Children have been so adversely impacted by cyberbullying, they can never get away from it.
Right.
Suicide ideation, eating disorders, they're meeting drug dealers, pedophiles, sex traffickers in the virtual space. It is time to put those guardrails in place, and we're so pleased. We have over 200 organizations, so many conservative organizations like the Heritage Foundation that have come out and have supported this and have said it is time for us to put protections in place for our children in the virtual space.
Yeah, I think we've got to remember, too, Senator, in all of this, that parents play a big role as well.
Very
Senator Marsha
much so.
Blackburn, Senator Marsha Blackburn of the great state of Tennessee, thank you for joining us. Thank you for taking the time.
You got it. Take care.
All right.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.